We continue today with our contemplation and review of the 9 essential relations. Let's begin with a sloka from Agni Yoga in Heart. After all the demarcations have been made, we inevitably arrive at the synthesis of the heart. We do not mention that silence arises from an intermingling of all the sounds. Let us learn to correlate the heart with silence. But this silence will not be a void. It will saturate space with the synthesis of thought. Just as a heartfelt prayer has no need of words, a saturated silence has no need of formulas. An intensified silence requires creation of many strata of thought, as well as many benevolent desires. So the heart, intensified by silence and full of energy like an electric generator, beats out the rhythm of the universe, and personal desires are transformed into the all-guiding universal will. That is how cooperation with the distant worlds develops. We study, contemplate the essential relations that are foundational to the new astrology, the science of relations, the science of triangles, the science of the rays, and the science of the centers. Let us hold our thoughts in the highest heart center, in the head. We continue today with more on the soul, the causal body, and the lower antakarana as the bridge of light, the dweller on the threshold, and the angel of the presence.
Understanding and applying the concept of as above, so below in this new astrology, the science of relations. The fourth relation, soul and personality. The dweller on the threshold, the causal body, the angel of the presence.
Also called the solar angel. In Initiation Human and Solar, Master DK tells us the ego is a great solar angel who is the medium of expression for the monad or pure spirit, just as is the personality for the ego on the lower level. From the point of view of man in the 3 worlds, this ego, or solar lord, is eternal. The solar angel persists throughout the entire cycle of incarnations, just as the personality persists during the tiny physical life cycle. Ellen, would you lead us in the soul mantra?
I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design.
We reach to the highest point in the head center and beyond, and link the light of soul with the light of the higher mind and the light of the brain matter of substance, creating a great light. Sound a silent om, affirming this great soul connection.
Visualizing the one soul, uniting the soul of all our group members, those working with us subjectively and those joining us from the other side of the veil. In unison we sound the protective formula. Uniting touch, hands, light and love, while making the sign of the cross of divinity. As the soul we work in light, Ajna Center, and darkness cannot touch us, Heart Center. We take our stand within the light, Manas. We work, and from that point we never move, Buddhi. Let's pause briefly to affirm the purity of our motive as we aspire to greater understanding of Master DK's teachings and our intention to expand our conscious service under the law of love for the good, the true, the beautiful, with the guidance of the soul and protection of the higher lives focus in the heart of our group.
The relation of the soul to the personality, Master DK says, is developed primarily from the standpoint of meditation. We have meditated using the formulas for meditation 1 and 2 to lift the solar plexus to the heart. We meditate regularly together at the full moon time. And we use meditation 4 as we move forward together as a discipleship group. Let us, at the time of the full moon, do as DK suggests to meditate with seed and build the antakarana. Using this phrase, upon the stream, between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision. Yvonne.
The three aspects of the mind, the three aspects of the ego soul, the three aspects of the monad. The ego, the reflection of the monad, is in itself a triplicity, as is all else in nature, and reflects the three aspects of divinity. Just as the monad reflects on a higher plane the three aspects, will, love, wisdom, and active intelligence of the deity. In the esoteric philosophy, we are taught, as well you know, that on the mental plane, there are three aspects of the mind, or of that mental creature we call a man. These three aspects constitute the most important part of one's nature. 1, the lower concrete mind, the reasoning principle. It is with this aspect of the person that our educational processes profess to deal. That's active intelligence. 2nd, the son of mind, which we call the ego or the soul. This is the intelligence principle and is called by many names in the esoteric literature, such as the solar angel, the Agnishvadas, the Christ principle, etc. With this, religion in the past has professed to deal. This is love, wisdom. Number 3, the abstract higher mind. the custodian of ideas, and that which is the conveyor of illumination to the lower mind, once that lower mind is in rapport with the soul. With this world of ideas, philosophy has professed to deal. This is will.
Therefore, we're instructed to use meditation, study, and service to develop these three aspects of mind, the three aspects of the soul, and eventually to be in touch with the monad. Will, love, and intelligence. And we work to develop the Antakarana, linking personality to the soul and causal body, expressing itself through the three aspects of the mind. And then, as a group, to reach upward and build the higher Antakarana, energizing the spiritual triad to be able to touch Buddhi and eventually to have a sense of monadic impression, guiding and leading us as humanity, progressing on the path of evolution, the path of probation, the path of discipleship, and the path of initiation. As above, so below. In your own mind, create this clear channel of light, linking personality to the causal body, and on to link soul and touch the Buddhic plane. Meditation, study, and service. Ellen, would you read this for us, please?
Remembering one higher correspondence. The energy of the new group of world servers could be likened to the Antakarana, which connects humanity with the hierarchy and provides a channel of contact with the ashrams of the masters. The service work of the Triangles Network is building this Antakarana, as well as other occult meditative service at the time of the full moon. When the Antakarana of a group is rightly constructed, then the individualized group will disappear in the full consciousness of the monadic purpose or clear, directed will.
So as we study together, as we meditate, we keep in mind that when the Antakarana of a group is rightly constructed, then even the individualized group will will disappear in the full consciousness of the monadic purpose or clear, directed will. The stages of building the Antakarana. For the personality, first, intention. Second, visualization. Third, projection. As we move forward together in the coming months, studying the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th relations, we will move into the 4th, invocation and evocation. 5th, stabilization. And potentially for some, a sense of the 6th, resurrection. Katie.
Master DK said, if the time of your full moon approach to me, endeavor to have in your consciousness the words from Formula 1. Upon the stream between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision. You need to remember that from one point of view, these symbols are related to the antikarana, that line between 2 points, and that as you build the antikarana in your own lives, so will be the growth of your understanding of the formula. As you progress upon the way of the cello, so will grow your power.
Therefore, we practice occult meditation at each full moon. Master DK says, use the formula actively as far as you can, and do not rest satisfied with just attempting to understand some of its significances. It has magical import, and when understanding is coupled with the use of the will, this formula constitutes a word of power of magical service. Upon the stream between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision. As above, so below. Create a potent visualization. Upon the stream, between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision. Let us follow a visualization exercise that DK has given his disciples to expand our ability for clear visualization that then can be utilized to in silence reach the highest point for impression. Having achieved alignment as rapidly as possible, hold the mind imaginatively, hold in the mind the straight line of the spinal column. Imaginatively see the head center. The Sutratma. And the Antakarana. Thus linking the centers in the body with the soul. Then carry the line which your imagination has constructed from the center at the base of the spine to the closed lotus petal in the center of the 12-petaled egoic lotus, called the synthesis petals, surrounding the jewel. Create as powerful and as sentient a visualization as you are capable of doing. Having done this, recognize your identity with all souls who constitute in their entirety the one soul. Now sound the Om as a soul silently, as far as in you lies, breathing it out from soul levels with no fixed objective in your mind. Breathing the Om from the soul levels. We then sound the Om again, thus making 7 in all, sending this final Om out into the Ajna center, and from there, carrying it down to the heart center, and holding it there for later use. Doing this as the soul whose nature is love. As the individual disciple builds the rainbow bridge, the Antakarana, and as the group of disciples build the group Antakarana, we are making possible triadal perception, the will to initiate, the will to unify. When the disciple has flung one strand of living light through the power of magnetic love across the space separating the triad and the personality, the disciple discovers that they are part of a group. The will to evolve, the will to harmonize. This group recognition, faulty and unintelligently expressed at first, by an act of the will to act, enables the disciple to pass along the anchored thread into the ashram of a master. The will to cause, the will to express. The Antakarana is built by aspirants and disciples and initiates of the 7 ray types and is therefore a 7-fold woven thread. It constitutes the first stage of the path of the higher evolution.
It is a group approach via the group Antakarana to the world of will, wisdom, and activity. And in silence we appreciate the nature of this alignment. Worlds higher than the worlds we customarily deal with, and yet not somewhere else, but always right here. The revelation is always present, but must be unveiled.
So we meet at the time of the full moon to build the Antakarana together, to experience this higher level of impression. And we study to better understand the impressions we receive. Sense the vibration of the soul. Lift your inner vision to see the light. Now sound the sacred word. Catherine.
Vibration, light, sound, color. The cord of the ego. When I use the term reciprocal vibration, what do I mean? I mean the adaptation of the personality or lower self to the ego or higher self. The dominating of the personality ray by the ray of the ego and the combining of their tones. Meaning the fusion of soul and personality. I mean the blending of the primary color of the higher self with the secondary hue of the lower self until beauty is achieved. At first, there is dissonance and discord, a clashing of the colors, and a fight between the higher and the lower, parentheses, the dweller on the threshold and the angel of the presence, end parentheses. But as time progresses, and later with the aid of the master, harmony of color and tone is produced, a synonymous matter. Until eventually you will have the basic note of matter, the major third of the aligned personality, the dominant fifth of the ego, followed by the full chord of the monad or spirit.
Yvonne.
Personality, excuse me, personality integration and soul contact through sound. The whole life, therefore, may be given over to the sounding of a particular note and to the stabilizing of one particular vibration. This note must be sounded and this vibration stabilized in diversity of circumstances. Hence the necessity in the life of the aspirant or disciple for frequent change, and the explanation of the obvious condition of variety and apparent chaos in which these lives are spent. When the discord has been corrected, and when the vibration becomes steady and is not subject to change, then the needed work is done. The ego can call in again his forces prior to continuing the work of perfecting the causal body and carrying to perfect accuracy and clarity of tone the desired chord. See then the necessity of adapting the method of meditation to the need of the personality and of synchronizing it at the same time with the first factor involving the ray of the ego.
Ellen.
Development of the causal body. 1. Causing that point of light to become a flame by steadily fanning the spark and feeding the fire. 2. Causing the causal body to grow and expand from being a colorless ovoid, holding the ego like a yolk within the eggshell, to a thing of rare beauty, containing within itself all the color of the rainbow. This is an occult fact. The causal body will palpitate in due course of time with an inner irradiation and an inner glowing flame that will gradually work its way from the center to the periphery. It will then pierce through that periphery, using the body, that product of millennia of lives of pain and endeavor, as fuel for its flames. It will burn all up. It will mount upward to the triad, and becoming one with that triad will be reabsorbed into the spiritual consciousness, will carry with it, using heat as the symbol, an intensity of heat or quality of color or vibration that before were lacking. As the disciple builds the Antakarana and thus establishes a direct channel of communication between the monad and the personality, the lower mind becomes fused with the abstract mind or higher mind. The monastic principle sublimated and purified. And gradually, the soul is, to use a peculiar but sensitively expressing word, bypassed. It has by now served its purpose.
Each individual, unique, moves forward along the Antakarana to become the causal body, the vehicle of the soul in perfection, and then aligning and moving upwards along the Antakarana to become part of an egoic group, and eventually to find identification in the spiritual triad. Blending and merging further to ascend upon the various paths and achieve unity and choose a path for higher evolution. Catherine.
Let us review the work of the personality as the causal body develops. Therefore, the work of the personality, for we have to view all from that angle until egoic vision may be ours, is first to beautify, build, and expand the causal body. Secondly, to withdraw within the life of the to withdraw within it the life of the personality, sucking the good out of the personal life and storing it in the body of the ego. The specific gravity of the causal body fixes the moment of emancipation and marks the time when the work of beautifying and building is completed, when the Temple of Solomon is erected, and when the weight, occultly understood, of the causal body measures up to the standard looked for by the hierarchy. Then the work of destruction supervenes and liberation approaches. The content of the causal body is the accumulation by slow and gradual process of the good in each life. The building proceeds slowly at first, but towards the end of incarnation, on the probationary path and on the path of initiation, the work proceeds rapidly. The structure has been reared and each stone quarried in the personal life.
Occult meditation, and through the gradual stilling of the lower mind, through concentration and the wise following of the egoic ray meditation, balanced by the personality ray meditation, we found that the relationship of the causal body to the personality became ever closer, and the channel connecting the two became ever more clear and adequate. This resulted eventually in a shifting of polarization from the lower to the higher, and later to complete emancipation from both. Centralization ensuing then in the spiritual consciousness.
So our practices of occult meditation, stilling of the lower mind, concentration, and wise following of the egoic ray meditation balanced by the personality ray meditation. There's this expansion of these radiatory vortices we call petals of whirling vibratory activity, of intelligence, love, light, and will unfolding within the causal body. So let's review the ongoing practices that expand these radiatory vortices of light.
Intends to deal with the matter from the standpoint of the higher self, from the egoic level, and consider the relationship of that self to the hierarchy, to surrounding egos, and to the spirit. It will be difficult to do more than give some few hints, for much that I could say would be little comprehended, and much be too occult and dangerous for general communication. 3 things may be imparted, which, when wisely meditated upon, may lead to illumination. The ego on its own plane realizes consciously its relationship to the master and seeks to transmit that consciousness to the personality. The higher self on its own plane is not trammeled by time and space, and knowing the future as well as that which is past, seeks to bring the desired end nearer and make it more rapidly a fact. The higher self or ego on its own plane has direct relationship with other egos on the same ray, and on a corresponding concrete or abstract ray, and realizing that progress is made in group formation, works on that plane at the helping of his kind.
So what are the fruits of meditation 4?
4. Knowledge, understanding, comprehension in relation to the hierarchy. Relationship of the ego to the hierarchy. The relationship of the ego to some one master is at this stage consciously realized, but is nevertheless itself of evolutionary development. As we have been told, there are 60,000 million units of consciousness, or spirits, in the evolving human hierarchy. These are found on causal levels, though the numbers are slightly less now, owing to the attainment of the fourth initiation by individuals from time to time. These egos at different stages of development are all linked with their monad, spirit, or Father in heaven, in much the same way, only in finer matter, as the ego is linked with the personality.
So now briefly in silence, consider how do these practices, teachings, and the ensuing developments in these vortices or petals apply to groups, communities, nations. Think of a group. Visualize the causal bodies of the individuals in the group, merging and blending into the causal body of the group. Can you visualize the connection to a particular ashram, a particular master? If you're working with a particular nation, try this exercise in relation to the soul or causal body of that nation. In the meditation at the time of the full moon, following it, imagine being able to draw down impressions regarding the soul of your nation, the causal body of the group with which you are working on ashramic levels.
We take time at this point for a brief alignment, occult meditation, on the personality work in building the Antakarana, affirming intention, using visualization, projection. Very rapidly, holding the consciousness steadily in the mind and not in the head. It presupposes an immediate mental focusing of the disciple at the very beginning of his meditation work. Meditation 4 involves 3 stages. The stage of recognition. We recognize our achieved alignment. We recognize our equipment, that which we have been given, gratefully rendered. We recognize our achieved alignment. We recognize the soul, the source of love wisdom. We recognize the hierarchy. Consider the hierarchy and the ashrams of the masters as the petals of the egoic lotus, vortices of light, love, and power, the causal body of the planetary logos. Visualize the rainbow bridge, the streams of radiant, moving light extending from hierarchy to Shambhala, the jewel in the lotus, a vortex receiving extraplanetary energies and transmitting those energies into hierarchy. We say with purpose and determination, I strive towards comprehension. Thy will, not mine, be done.
Take a moment and create a visualization, connecting humanity through the new group to the hierarchy, into the monad. Upon the stream between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision that leads to Shambhala and the Lord of the world. The Antakarana, building in potency and radiance.
The stage of fixed determination. We consider the meaning of intention and visualize the rainbow bridge that is being built as the new group of world servers connects hierarchy to humanity. We consider purpose, Shambhala, the jewel, will, transmitted to hierarchy, the vortices, each tier of petals, and intention, the new group, connecting to humanity, the permanent atoms. This developed will expresses itself as tension, esoterically understood. It embodies the ideas of orientation, implacable determination, ability to wait and to preserve intention, and orientation unmoved by aught which may occur. It also involves the determination to take the intended action, always of a creative nature and based on loving understanding, at the psychological moment, right timing, or that exact moment which the psyche or soul determines to be correct.
Holding that stage of fixed determination with our intention to visualize the rainbow bridge and project up along the line, using the words of power, creating a clear channel of light from humanity to hierarchy to Shambhala.
I strive towards understanding. Let wisdom take the place of knowledge in my life. Now we visualize humanity as a sheath encapsulating three permanent atoms, and from that sheath, a great band of indigo blue light streaming forth, sounding, I see the greatest light, and project that line of light towards the petals of the egoic lotus, the hierarchy. As you visualize this, see the seven colors appear and hear the words of power of your ray sound forth on this chorus of voices of the egoic groups. I strive towards cooperation. Let the master of my life, the soul, and likewise the one I seek to serve, throw light through me on others.
Let us sound together as a group. We strive towards cooperation. Let the master of our life as a soul group, and likewise the one we seek to serve, throw light through our group on others. The mass of men are like the millions of unused brain cells, which psychologists and scientists tell us we possess but do not employ. As aspirants and disciples, we represent those brain cells which are beginning to fall into the larger divine rhythm. We are learning the nature of responsiveness. We align with hierarchy. The members of the hierarchy represent those who have achieved peace and quiescence, and who can be impressed at the time of the full moon and during the festivals, at these very important times when the higher energies pour forth from Sirius as the distributing agent, the point of the cosmic triangle working in a sevenfold manner through the seven rays, and the solar logos, the seven sacred planets streaming, as we are told, the seventh ray through Uranus at this time from Sirius, into and through the triangle of the three great sources veiled by the moon in Cancer.
Ну, хорошо.
Что у тебя? Ничего, я только что пришла.
Ну, что? Ага. А я звоню, телефон не отвечает, я уже стала нервничать.
Нет.
Pouring through onto the mental plane, the transformative, powerful energies of the seventh ray through Uranus, tempered by the veiling of the moon. The highest and the lowest meet. Through Neptune, veiled by the moon, the great energies of the cosmic Christ. I see the greatest light, and the highest light controls the lower mind. Finally, onto the physical plane through Vulcan, the first ray. I am that I am. Into the planetary scheme, purpose itself am I. through hierarchy, through the ashrams of the masters, into our responsive groups, the brain cells of the planetary logos, that we may turn and send great thought forms of solution into the mass of men, the millions of unused brain cells, to become soul conscious. Yvonne.
At this particular stage in evolution, the average person is simply conscious of differentiation or of being separated off from all other members of the human family, thus forming in the self a unit among other units. The average person acknowledges this and acknowledges the right of all other separated units so to consider themselves. Adding to this a recognition of somewhere in the universe, there exists a supreme consciousness, whom theoretically is called God or nature. Between this purely selfish point of view, I use the term selfish in the scientific sense and not as a belittling adjective, and the nebulous theory of God immanent, there are to be found numerous stages, at each of which occurs an expansion of consciousness, or an enlargement of the point of view, that leads that self-recognizing unit step by step from self-recognition to the recognition of superior selves, to the fitting of oneself to be likewise recognized as a superior self, and eventually to the occult recognition of one's own superior self. The person comes to recognize the higher self or ego as the true self, and from that stage passes on into that of the group consciousness, here realizing first the egoic group and then other egoic groups.
We have our purpose then outlined for us, to utilize the impressions that we receive in group formation to stimulate soul consciousness and the development of these expansions of consciousness in humanity by, as DK says, thinking the teachings into the consciousness of humanity and living the teachings that others may see. In our progression along the path of evolution, the path of probation, the path of initiation, an ordered lighting of the centers occurs, whether we're speaking of a human being, a group, a nation, a planet, or a solar system. So what are we to know and understand about the interplay of these centers? We are to study knowing that these centers evolve according to the ray of the monad in increasing movement, whirling the energies within to radiate and move out as force, to link with another center and then another. So we visualize in our meditation the extraplanetary centers of the avatar of synthesis, the spirit of peace, and the Lord of light, the Lord Buddha. And then the next closer triangle of centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, whirling these energies within to radiate inward to the Christ at the center, moving out as force to link the centers within Shambhala to hierarchy. As above, so below.
The energy or force comes to a point of quiescent potency, each center in the order determined by the monad. The center awakens and expands as lighted energy is received and then pours forth along a line of scintillating energy to the next center in the triangle, and the next triangle as determined by the monadic ray. The interplay, Gemini, or the interchange, radiance from Mercury and Venus, culminates in the apex, which in turn begins to advance to the next center in the next higher triangle. One example to spark your own visualization. The aspirant may begin with the 2 points of the solar plexus center, not self and self, and the higher center of these two moves to the heart center, apex. When the heart and the higher solar plexus are in synchrony and alignment, the heart lifts to the head. Heart, heart in the head, and solar plexus in the head, for example. This example follows the process initiated with occult meditations 1 and 2 given in Discipleship in the New Age Volume 2. Over time, this triangle of solar plexus, heart, and head becomes a radiant triangle of light, which begins to illumine the observer in the higher mind, the soul vehicle or causal body, and on to the soul as the causal vehicle, and the vortices open in a rhythmic and ordered process according to the ray of the monad. And the soul begins to influence the life of the aspirant. The greatest challenge for the student is to realize all is one. There is no separation. Yet each center and each triangle is distinct.
So the monad, energizing the spiritual triad, activates the will, for will is active. Upon the stream between the two extremes, there floats the eye of vision. Purpose itself is an energy within the confines of the council chamber. There it takes shape, moves into the spiritual triad, creating ordered purpose involving the Buddhic or intuitional plane. This relates to the fourth initiation and light upon the path. The radiance and whirl, the connection as triangles within the aura, leads eventually to a fusion. The fusion of the personality and the soul is the second of the great fusions for human beings, personality integration being the first. This has to be carried out consciously and deliberately, Master DK says, with a willingness of these related parts of a great divine whole to see the personality subjected to changes and transmutations produced as a result of soul contact. This will lead to the manifestation of the indwelling soul, the Christ consciousness, the solar angel. So as the changes and transmutations are accomplished, the disciple must confront the dweller on the threshold.
The dweller on the threshold does not emerge out of the fog of illusion and of glamour until the disciple is nearing the gates of life. Only when he can catch dim glimpses of the portal of initiation and an occasional flash of light from the angel of the presence who stands waiting beside that door can he come to grips with the principle of duality, which is embodied for him in the dweller and the angel. The day will surely come, however, when you will stand in full awareness between these symbols of the pairs of opposites, with the angel on the right and the dweller on the left. May strength then be given to you to drive straight forward between these two opponents who have for long ages waged warfare in the field of your life. And so may you enter into that presence where the two are seen as one, and not as known, but life and deity. The dweller on the threshold is illusion, glamour, Maya, as realized by the physical brain and recognized as that which must be overcome. It is the bewildering thought form with which the disciple is confronted when he seeks to pierce through the accumulated glamour of the ages and find his true home in the place of light. Watch yourselves and your daily life with discrimination so that you learn to distinguish between glamour, illusion, and Maya. See whether you can discover the form which your individual dweller upon the threshold is likely to assume as you come into conflict with it. And if you do the same for your group brothers and the immediate world need, you will lose no time in the work of your astral clarification and mental release. The dweller on the threshold is usually regarded as presenting the final test of man's courage and as being in the nature of a gigantic thought form or factor which has to be dissipated prior to taking initiation. Just what this thought form is, few people know, but their definition includes the idea of a huge elemental form which bars the way to the sacred portal, or the idea of a fabricated form constructed sometimes by the disciple's master to test his sincerity. Some regard it as the sum total of a man's faults, his evil nature, which hinders his being recognized as fit to tread the path of holiness.
The dweller on the threshold, always present, swings, however, into activity only on the path of discipleship. When the aspirant becomes occultly aware of himself, of the conditions induced within him as a result of his interior illusion, his astral glamour, and the Maya surrounding his entire life. Being now an integrated personality, and no one is a disciple, my brother, unless he is mental as well as emotional, which is a point the devotee oft forgets, these three conditions, with the preponderance of the effects in one or other of the bodies, are seen as a whole, and to this whole the term the dweller on the threshold is applied. It is in reality a vitalized thought form, embodying mental force, astral force, and vital energy. You must remember that as I look at the individual in any of these groups, I can at the same time gauge the quality of the group itself as a whole. The amount of inner light that can shine through and make its presence felt in your auras can be seen by me and indicate to me the strength and the efficiency and also the potency of your individual group influence. For the positive auras, subordinate the negative auras. What is required is a combination of positive auras deliberately subordinated to group work. As you deal with delusion, and as you free your minds from its effects, and as you dissipate the astral glamour in which you are all more or less immersed, you will enter into a greater freedom of living and usefulness. As the maya of distorted energy currents ceases to swing you into lines of undesirable activity, the light that is in you will shine forth with greater clarity. Incidentally, the dweller on the threshold will slowly and surely disintegrate and leave your way to the door of initiation, free and unimpeded.
If you can overcome glamour in your own lives, and if you can, therefore, comprehend the nature of illusion, you will help in the following ways with A. The destruction of the dweller on the threshold. B. The devitalizing of the general maya. C. The dissipation of glamour. D. The dispelling of illusion. This you have to do in your own lives with discipline, displassion, decentralization, and detachment, and in the group relation. Then your more general contribution will help in the wider human issues. The acuteness of the intellect and the illumination of the mind, plus love and intention, will accomplish much. To this service, I reiterate my call. Illusion is in reality a condition wherein the aspirant is being definitely controlled by 1. A thought form of such potency that it does two things. A. It controls the life activity or output. And B. Tunes the aspirant in on the mass thought forms, which are of similar nature and which are built by others under the dominance of a similar illusion.
We are concerned at this time with the great point of crisis which faces the disciple when he attempts to resolve the final pair of opposites prior to certain major initiations. This is the confronting the personality by the angel of the presence. There is no need for me to define the two aspects of the disciple's nature, for that is what they essentially are. You have been told and have known that the dweller upon the threshold is the fully developed personality, the sum total of all the past and the composite presentation upon the physical plane of all unresolved problems, all undeclared desires, all latent characteristics and qualities, all phases of thought and of self-will, all lower potencies and ancient habits of any of the three bodies, both bad and good. These, in their totality, are brought to the surface of consciousness, there to be dealt with in such a way that their control is broken. The disciple is then free to take the final initiations. This process is not consummated in one particular phasing of the two antagonistic forces. It is a threefold process, covering each of the three periods before the first three initiations, or, from the angle of the hierarchy, before the two initiations of the threshold and the first major initiation, the transfiguration.
The dweller on the threshold is found in the physical brain consciousness, and its opposite is the angel of the presence. These opposites battle on the field of the integrated personality at the first, second, and third initiations. Discrimination is the objective. The technique is at-one-ment and the end of duality. The dweller on the threshold arrives at full potency for the Aryan race, at the end of this race, the Aryan, and in the lives of all initiates prior to taking the third initiation, which is the first major initiation. Katie.
The son of mind. This is the soul itself, governed by the second aspect of all the seven rays. The point I would ask you to seriously to register. It reflects the lower phase of the love aspect of divinity and summarizes in itself the results of all accumulated knowledge, which is wisdom, illumined by the light of the intuition. Another way of expressing this is to describe it as love, availing itself of experience and knowledge. It expresses itself most fully through the love petals of its innate being. Through dedicated and devoted service, it brings the divine plan into activity in the three worlds of human accomplishment. It is therefore related to the second aspect of the spiritual triad and is brought into functioning activity through meditation. It then controls and utilizes for its own spiritual ends the consecrated personality via the illumined mind referred to above. It is eternal in time and space.
The angel of the presence, the solar angel, the pure white light of the soul. It is said that thoughts are things and produce tangible results. It is also said that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, and that therefore these tangible thought manifestations definitely produce effects on him. In these ancient platitudes lie, for you, much instruction, much light and understanding, and the clue to your immediate problem. You, a soul in incarnation, are consciously aware of the fact, subjectively and ofttimes dimly sensed, of your real self, of the solar angel, who is the angel of the presence. Your problem is to deepen this realization and to know yourself to be the angel. standing between you, the physical plane man, and the presence. It might elucidate matters if we considered for a moment what reality is represented by that word, presence. First, to recognize the presence, I must stand free and unattached. To what and to whom am I now attached in such a way that I am prevented from clear vision and closer approach? Second, to recognize the presence, I must function as the solar angel. Can I, at this time, discriminate between myself and that solar angel? Third, to recognize the presence means that I am preparing to pass as a solar angel through the gate onto the path of initiation. Can I, in view of this, state clearly to myself what are my major assets and my major weaknesses? Fourth, can I define clearly within myself what I understand by myself, the disciple, myself, the angel, the presence, before the throne of God, the angel, with all the other angels, stood and cried, Lord of my life, grant me the strength to tread the path of revelation, to cross the sea of dark illusion, and face the lighted way of earth. God said, Go forth and far away. Before the gate which opens on the lighted way to peace, the angel stood alone and said, Lord of my life, the way of revelation is the way of manifested life. The path of dark illusion leads to the light which scatters every shadow. I seek to tread the lighted way which leads back to thy presence. As yet, that way is dark. What shall I do? God said, Draw near and enter into thine own light, and in that light see light. Before the gateway of each newborn day, which holds within its sealed hours ordered responsibility, each morn I stand. I cry aloud, Lord of my life, How can I do the duty of this day, yet seek detachment? Meet every need, yet free myself from ties and bonds? God said, "The sun draws near and vivifies the earth. Naught can it take from out the earth. Live likewise, give and ask not."
Master DK tells us a relation must then be established between the soul and the astral plane via the astral body of the disciple. This astral body must be regarded to him as his response apparatus to the world of sensation, and as the only instrument whereby his soul can contact that level of expression, humanity, temporary and long-lasting, non-lasting as it may be. The disciple must therefore establish contact with the soul and do this consciously and with the needed emphasis, and so carry soul light down onto the astral body. There, learning to focus it in the solar plexus center. So where there's this purification that occurs then. And from that point of achievement, proceed to work on the astral plane at the arduous task of dispelling glamour. This connection from the soul is through the heart and the head and the heart center into the astral field to distinguish it from the technique that is used in the radiatory healing process. So focus on the development of the virtues of the heart, DK says, as seed thoughts in meditations. This may assist you, bearing in mind that the heart center is the repository of 12 forces or energies. Seek to develop these energies by pondering upon the 12 virtues through which these energies express themselves. You might decide to take one in each month aligned with a particular zodiacal sign. So in Gemini, for example, life, or the expressed activity, which is the manifestation of love, because it is essential dualism, the dualism considered in the sign of Gemini. Wisdom, which is the fruit of love and indicates the awakening of the love petals of the egoic lotus. Sympathy, which is the consequence of knowledge and of the unfoldment of the knowledge petals, that such energy then is in touch with the heart center. Identification with others, which is the embryonic fusion carried eventually to synthesis with the head center when the head center is developed. Group love, embracing individuals. Tolerance, which is the first expression of Buddhic understanding. Compassion, which is essentially the right use of the pairs of opposites. Humility, signifying your personality attitude. Patience, signifying the embryonic immortality and persistence, which is a soul characteristic. Service, indicating your soul's preoccupation. Sacrifice, which is the giving of the heart's blood or life for others. DK suggests that after a quiet meditation on one of these qualities of soul expression as they manifest upon the physical plane, just a 5-minute meditation, that you sound the Om 3 times. The color-coded ones are highlighted because if you need to select a virtue other than those, or relate a virtue that you're working on. For reference, providing this table that he gives, the tabulation of the virtues of each ray. You might find one that you're in need of developing when you look at the virtues to develop related to the rays. In particular, the quality of tolerance. The first ray, it needs to be developed. In the third ray, it needs to be developed. The sixth ray, it needs to be developed. And the seventh ray, it needs to be developed. You can look for correlations to the other soul qualities that you may choose to work with. DK says the problem for all disciples remains the same. This is to live simultaneously the acutely sensitive inner life of the pilgrim upon the path of life, of a human being in the world of human events, a place where we can get focused and actually stuck in these days of so much political and cultural turmoil in the world. The problem to live the group life of the pledged disciple and the mass life of humanity. How do we conduct ourselves in group life and not be tainted by what is happening on the astral plane and in the plane of illusion in the modern world? And to fulfill our own personal spiritual destiny through the medium of a controlled personality, and at the same time, to participate fully in the life of humanity upon earth. As DK says, this is no easy task. So we just need to be reminded that we are to think this teaching into the minds of the public, express before our fellow human beings the teaching that DK imparts, and by a life lived in conforming with this teaching. By doing these three things, our service is very real. Meditation, study, and service as the soul-infused personality, reflecting the threefold soul. And there's even a greater opportunity for world servers. For as DK says, another point which should be noted is that in the crystallization of this material age comes the great opportunity to strike a deadly blow on the planetary dweller on the threshold. The reaction at this time, through the stress of circumstance, is bringing about a more spiritual understanding and a reorganization of human values. And this is part of the process whereby a vital, Maya and glamour put together are always vital, a vital part of the world glamour may be dissipated if only all of goodwill within the world aura adhere to our appointed task. So let's close sounding this mantra as we move into the energies of this Cancer full moon, the blue moon. Be sure you're muted and sound it with me. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of love divine. I am a point of sacrificial fire focused within the fiery will of God, and thus I stand. I am a way by which men may achieve. I am a source of strength, enabling them to stand. I am a beam of light shining upon their way, and thus I stand. And standing thus revolve and tread this way, the ways of men, and know the ways of God, and thus I stand. Thank you, dear friends. Move forward together in a new unity along the group Antakarana with the highest intention, with a potent visualization, and project that clear line of light. The 7 colors unified in a great white light, creating a clear channel for reception of impressions from the hierarchy. Deep gratitude.